What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Fast Break Tundra Baller. I'm excited that you guys are here. This is episode 9 of season 2. This is my second semester doing Fast Break Tundra Baller here on Titan Radio. So if you guys are listening live, it's April 11th at 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. or 12 p.m. Sorry. So today we are going to be talking about a lot of basketball stuff. There is a lot of things that happen. Two big things that happened in the NBA during the week, and we have a national championship game too. So March Madness. We've been talking about March Madness for the last 2 episodes or so, last 2 or 3 episodes. If I'm remembering right, and and we also have some Clipper games also. So if this is your first time here, I am the biggest Clipper fan that you guys probably know. I am a season ticket holder for the Clippers. My name is Mario Duenas. I am a sophomore at Cal State Fullerton right now, and I am a journalism student. So pretty much the goal is to cover the Clippers one day. It's my dream job. So I'm working towards that right now, and I'm also making content about the Clippers on TikTok. So if you guys want to check that out, it is Tundra_baller_0. So the word Tundra, like the biome Tundra, and then baller, Baller, and then zero, the number zero. So Tundra_baller_0. So make sure you guys follow there. I post almost every day there. I try to post every day, but yeah, I have a lot of great content coming out soon. So the playoffs, they're starting. Well, the play-in starts next week, and then the playoffs, it starts the following week. So pretty exciting. And the Clippers, hopefully they make it. So hopefully they do make it to the eighth seed, so they can have one chance to win a game instead of one chance to win 2 games. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about today, it is the national championship game. So so it all came down to 2 teams. It started with 68 teams competing for a national championship, but it came down to the final 2 teams, the University of Michigan and UConn, aka the University of Connecticut. So both teams, they were scoreless until the first minute and a half. Morez Johnson Jr. made a layup for Michigan, and then Michigan took a 5-point lead 3 minutes into the game after Elliot Cadeau drew a foul on a three-pointer and made all 3 free throws. They were beating UConn on the boards though. They were literally 6-1 on the rebounding. After the first 4 minutes, Michigan out rebounded UConn 6-1. Elliot Cadeau already had 7 points in the first 6 minutes of the game. He was looking good. Then 8 minutes into the game, UConn was already getting into foul trouble when their starters Solo Ball and Salas Damari Jr. already got 2 fouls each. 2 minutes later, UConn took the lead by 3, 16-13 for the first time when Alex Caravan made a 3. With less than 7 minutes left in the first half, Michigan took the lead again, 19-18, when Namari Burnett made 2 free throws. And then UConn took the lead again in the next possession, and then Michigan took the lead, and then UConn, they took the lead. So they pretty much traded possessions or traded leads for the next 2 possessions. So UConn was playing some good defense, but they kept fouling though. They had 10 plus fouls, while Michigan got 4 with 3 minutes left. So they were already in the double bonus, Michigan. And in Michigan, they were good on not fouling a lot. They only fouled 4 times in 17 minutes. And then Michigan took the lead with 2:27 left in the first half. It was a 4-point lead. It was still a 4-point lead at halftime. Then in the second half, Michigan took 11-point lead. They were looking good, and UConn, they were struggling to score, but they brought it down to 5 though, with 8:24 left in the game. Like I said again, UConn, they were struggling to score. They weren't looking good offensively, but they still had some fight though. With less than 5 minutes left, Michigan took a 10-point lead, and Braylon Mullins, the guy that hit that big shot against Duke, in the Elite Eight, he hit a three to bring the lead down to 7. Then with 2 minutes left, UConn was down 6. Low chance of winning, but still possible. March Madness. They got a steal and they had a good opportunity for a layup, UConn, but they missed it. And instead of them making a layup, and on the other side, Trey McKinney, he hit a big three to make the lead a 9. So it was a 9-point lead for Michigan instead of a 4-point lead with that layup if UConn made that layup. So that was their second made three in 15 attempts. The three that they made right there. So on the other side, Harris Reed Jr., he got fouled and he shot 2 free throws for UConn and made both of them. So 7-point game with a minute 23 left. Then Silas Damari Jr. got his 5th and final foul, making it fouled out for the rest of the game. Elliot Cadeau, he made both free throws to make it a 9-point game again. And Alex Caravan, he got fouled while trying to get an offensive rebound. It was a loose ball foul. He got pushed in the back, and he made both free throws with 53 seconds left. And then UConn, they forced a turnover in the backcourt. They were pressing up, and they forced a turnover. Solo ball, then he makes a three for UConn. He definitely caught bank to make it a 4-point game with 37 seconds left. So with about a minute, they brought it from 9 to 4. UConn tried to get a steal, but they didn't get anything, so they fouled Michigan intentionally with 29 seconds left. They put Roddy Gale Jr. at the line, and he missed both free throws. Very big. Alex Caravan, he missed a deep three, and then UConn fouled again. So Dan Hurley and UConn, they challenged the call because he thought Trey McKinney threw an elbow at one of the players that kind of looked like, but the challenge, it was unsuccessful. The defensive foul on the play stood, and Trey McKinney, he made both free throws to make it a 6-point lead with 13 seconds left, and then the game was over. Michigan won the national championship for the first time in 37 years, 1989, 69-63. So here is some of the stats for you guys. So for UConn, Alex Caravan, their second leading scorer for the season, he was the leading scorer for the game. For UConn, he was the second leading scorer overall. But Alex Caravan, he was the leading scorer for UConn, and he finished with 17 points. He did not sit on the bench for the entire game. He played all 40 minutes. He finished the game with 17 points, but he was 5 for 14 shooting, though, and 3 for 10 from 3. And he had 11 rebounds and 2 assists. Harris Reed Jr., he had 13 points, their second leading scorer of the game. He played 34 minutes. He had 13 points, 4 for 12 shooting, and missing his 1-3, but he had 14 rebounds also. Braylon Mullins, the guy that hit the big shot against Duke, he finished with 11 points in 36 minutes, 4 for 17 shooting, 3 for 10 from 3, just like Alex Caravan, and he also had 7 rebounds and 2 assists. He was really hustling during this game. He was really crashing the boards, and he was really hustling out there, so credit to him. And then for Michigan, we have Elliot Cadeau, who was named the outstanding player of the game. He finished with 19 points, 5 for 11 shooting, 1 for 4 from 3, and he also had 3 rebounds and 2 assists. So it was a lot of defensive pressure pretty much. Like, look at UConn. They shot 31% from the field. They were 21 for 68 from the field and 9 for 33 from 3, which is 27%. And then look at Michigan right here. They shot 38% from the field, 21 for 55, and 2 for 15 from 3, which was 13%. And they shot 28 free throws, only missing 3 of them, 25 for 28. So it was really a defensive game. Could be kind of low scoring. It was 69-63. So only a total of 132 points, but it was a really good game by both of them. So credit to them. So the next thing that we're going to be talking about now is some NBA news. So you guys probably heard about it, right, about this, but this is a developing story, and it has been going on for a while. This story, pretty much, let's just say the entire season. But lately, there's been a lot more drama about about the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So so the Bucks, they have been a pretty successful team in most recent years. They have 9 straight playoff appearances ever since 2017. But this season is going to come to an end. They they are already out of playoff contention with a record of 31-49 by the time I'm recording this. So they have 2 games left in regular season. And in those 9 appearances that they had, 5 of them were first round exits, 2 of them were second round exits, and one time was where they made it to the conference finals, and the other time was where they won the championship in 2021. So it's pretty much been a very disappointing season for them. They have been making the playoffs for 9 straight years, but it's going to come to an end. So they're not going to make it 10 this season. So like I said, they have a record of 31-49. So they started their first 5 games of the season winning 4 of them. So it was looking like that they were gonna have at least have a winning record like they have been the last 9 years. So they started 4-1 in the first 5 games, but then the next 15 games after that, they had a record of 8-12. So they won. So they won only 4 of those next games, of those next 15 games. So with that 15th loss, that was part of their longest losing streak of the season at 7 games in a row. So their player, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he hasn't played in more than half of the 80 games that they played so far. He only appeared in 36, so which is below half due to injury. So his relationship with the Bucks has appeared to not look good this season though. Because last offseason, the Bucks waived Damian Lillard and now he is with the Blazers, so pretty much a reunion, the Portland Trail Blazers. So after they waived them, they decided to try to trade for Giannis, so pretty much sell him off to other teams. So he met with the New York Knicks since it was the only other team that he would want to play for, but things didn't really work out. Last December, Antetokounmpo and his agent Alex Saratzis, they they decided that they were gonna want to part ways. So it became a lot of trade talks going into the trade deadline. So there were teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves, Miami Heat, and the Golden State Warriors that wanted to trade for him and talk with the Milwaukee Bucks, but it didn't really work out. Trade talks. He was still with the team. Then on March 15th, he hyperextended his knee during a win against the Pacers, and then it turned out that it was a bone bruise after hyperextending his knee. So here's the thing too. The Bucks wanted to shut him down for the rest of the season, but he refused. They're already out of the playoffs. It looked like at least the play-in. They were down there in the standings, and then they wanted to shut him down. To prioritize his health, but he wanted to keep playing, and the Bucks also wanted to. They wanted to try to tank also. In other words, but they said possibly getting a higher draft pick, rebuilding, I guess. But here's the thing. Giannis, he wanted to keep playing. They were like, no, I don't care. I want to keep playing. When I get better, I'm gonna play. But here's the thing. The NBA Players Association, they released a statement about the situation. So this is what they said. The player participation policy was designed by the league to hold teams accountable and ensure that when an all-star like Giannis Antetokounmpo is healthy and ready to play, he is on the court. Unfortunately, anti-tanking policies are only as effective as their enforcement. Fans, broadcast partners, and the integrity of the game itself will continue to suffer as long as ownership goes unchecked. We look forward to collaborating with the NBA on meaningful new proposals that will directly address and discourage tanking. So the NBA they started an investigation about this. They interviewed both the Bucks and Antetokounmpo, and they had different stories to tell. So Antetokounmpo, he said that he was ready to play, but the team won't let him. And then the team was pretty much the opposite. They said that Giannis wasn't ready to play and he's refusing to play. So we'll see how this goes. It's still a developing story, it looks like. But by the time we're recording this, there is only two more games left in the season. So if you guys are listening live on April 9th at 11 a.m. right now, then you guys are hearing a recording 2 days earlier because I have to turn in my recording of this episode 2 days earlier. Thursday at 5 p.m. is 1:37 p.m. at the time of recording this on Thursday, April 9th. So they have two more games to go. So we'll see how this goes. And then we have one more topic about teams possibly tanking here. It happened last Tuesday where a possibility of a team tanking during an NBA game. It was the Sacramento Kings. So last Tuesday, the Kings they were accused of losing to the Golden State Warriors on purpose in the fourth quarter. So they are currently tied for the worst record in the West with the Utah Jazz with a record of 21-59, and that is tied for the fourth worst record in the league right now. They currently have 4 players out for the season, and those players are Drew Eubanks, Clipper legend, DeAndre Hunter, Zach LaVine, and Domantas Sabonis. With 3 minutes 15 seconds left in the game, Kings head coach Doug Christie told Doug McDermott, elite ball knowledge player, to intentionally foul Steph Curry, which made him shoot free throws since they were the bonus. And Doug Christie thought that they had a foul to give. So he thought that fouling him on the ground would not give him free throws since it's not the bonus. And he wanted to call a timeout since he was already going to lose one about 15 minutes because in 15 seconds, because mandatory timeouts they happen at the next dead ball when the 7-minute mark and the 3-minute mark happens if a team doesn't call a timeout. So they were going to lose it anyways already if he didn't call a timeout intentionally. But yeah, that's how the mandatory timeout works. So the next mandatory timeout was going to be under 3 minutes, and it was already 15 seconds away from 3 minutes sharp. So, and he was going to lose his timeout eventually, so why not use it right now? So he was planning to draw a play for the next possession, and Steph Curry, he could have made both free throws to take the lead, but he tied the game and made one of them. And the Warriors, they eventually lost the game 110-105. And then one of the Warriors players, Draymond Green, he told the press after the game saying, I saw a team foul Steph Curry with 3 minutes to go in a game for no reason. In the penalty, I get fined when I do wrong. We like taking money from players. Keep finding the teams. I've seen 2 fines, and we all know everyone taking. So he is kind of frustrated about it. And he was also showing his frustration about the play-in tournament structure. But he was also liking it and not really liking it. The Warriors are already sealed for the 10th spot in the Western Conference, so they're going to be pushing to try to get the 8th seed next week during the play-in tournament. So we'll see how that goes. And then the NBA started their own investigation about this, and they found the Kings not guilty of tanking. They released a final statement about it, saying the NBA completed an investigation of the Sacramento Kings and head coach Doug Christie's decision to intentionally foul late in the team's game against the Golden State Warriors on April 7th, which was last Tuesday, if you're listening live. The league's investigation determined that Christie mistakenly believed that the Warriors were not in the penalty and therefore instructed his team to foul in an attempt to stop the clock and utilize one of the team's remaining timeouts. The investigation found that Christie made no intentional effort to give the Warriors a shooting foul or to cause the Kings to lose the game. So it was so we'll see. Maybe they did tank, but it was probably just an honest mistake. So we'll see how teams that are in the bottom of the league right now with the worst records. Let's see how they will play in the last two games of a regular season. It is the time of episode, guys, that we're going to be talking about the Clipper games. So let's get started with that. We have 4 Clipper games to talk about today. First, we're going to be talking about the Clippers against the Spurs that happened 2 Thursdays ago. I wasn't able to cover that game the last episode, so we're going to be talking about it in this episode. And then from Easter Sunday against the Kings, then last Tuesday and Wednesday back to back against the Dallas Mavericks and the Oklahoma City Thunder. So let's talk about it. So going into this game, this was a second half of back to back for the Spurs. They played the previous day, and Victor Wembanyama, for rest purposes, he did not play in this game. So this was a very, very big opportunity for the Clippers to win this game because every game matters at this point. Of course, every game, all the 82 games during the season matters, but this one, the Blazers, they're really behind us and they're trailing us right now. So we really need to win these games, and we need the Blazers to lose some games. So Luke Cornette, he started in Wemby's spot for the night, and here's how the game went. And it was a home game too, so of course I was there because I'm a season ticket holder for the Clippers. In the swell, I'm those people that do the crazy free throw distractions in the wall for the Clippers. So Brook Lopez, he scored the first basket. He got a floater, but then they started getting some momentum, the Spurs. They started with a early 10-6 lead after Stephon Castle made a 3, but yeah, it was just not looking good for the Clippers. Like they cut the lead in half though, from 10-6, and then it was 12-10. Kawhi made a fadeaway jumper, but they just started to gain some momentum. But they took the lead again with 4:34 left. So the first lead after Brook Lopez scored the first basket, Kawhi Leonard made a 3-pointer to 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 take the lead with less than 5 minutes to go. And he already had 9 points at this time, so it was looking good for Kawhi. And then John Collins, he extended the lead to 3 with a fadeaway jumper the next possession. And then they took the lead again. It went from 18-21. The Clippers have the lead 18-21 to 24-21. They went on a 6-0 run, the Spurs. De'Aaron Fox, he made a floater. And then Dylan Harper, he made a layup. And then Julian Champagnie, he also made a layup. So 6 straight points for the Spurs, 6 unanswered. And then the Clippers didn't see the lead again for the rest of the quarter. They only scored 4 more points in the next 4.5 minutes, and they ended the quarter down 8, 33-25. It was just, it did not look good, guys. It did not look good this quarter. And let's do some stats a little bit. So the Spurs, they shot 70%. 70 in one quarter. 70. They only missed 6 shots, not counting a free throw that they missed. But they missed only 6 shots out of 20 shots. 3 for 4 from 3. You add guys like De'Aaron Fox with 8 points, Stephon Castle with 7. He scored 33 points. The Clippers, 46%. That is pretty good. But you're not going to win games if you're going to allow a team to score 70 points in a quarter. Luckily they didn't score 40. well, they were 46%, 12 for 26, but they only made one of their 8 threes. Pretty much, they had more than double the amount of threes, or exactly the double amount of threes that the Spurs shot, but they made more shots still. The Spurs are 3 for 4 from three, and the Clippers they doubled their 3 point attempts compared to the Spurs 1 for 8. The only three made was by Kawhi Leonard that three to take the lead that I told you about earlier. He finished the quarter with 11 points, so it was almost half of the 25 points that the Clippers scored for the quarter. And then it was the start of the second quarter, and then it was not looking good again. Already a minute in, they already got a 10-point lead, the Spurs. So it was 33 to 27. They scored the first basket. The Clippers. Jordan Miller, he got an alley oop from Chris Dunn. It was a really nice play, by the way, but yeah, it was bad. So it was a 9-0 run, 11-0 run. It was an 11-0 run. My bad. It was a 11-0 run. It was De'Aaron Fox with a step back jumper, and then he had another step back jumper, and then he had a dunk. So he had 6 of those points, and then the other 5 points was a Julian Champagny 3-pointer, and then Dylan Harper with a step back jumper, a close one from 8 feet, and then then with that run, the Clippers they scored one basket, right? Brook Lopez he ended that run with a tip in, and then the Clippers they allowed the Spurs to take a 20-point lead. Dan Vassell he hit a three to make the lead 49-29 with less than 8 minutes to go in the second quarter. So the Clippers they only scored 29 points in about 16 minutes. So like we are a 30-point a game team, like 30-point a quarter team at least. So we should be scoring 120 points a game at least. And with that, we could win a lot of games with 120 points. But yeah, it was not looking good. And then the Clippers, they were down by 24 points at halftime, 68-44. So the Clippers, honestly, they should be scoring 44 points at least. I would say at worst halfway through the second quarter, but they did that at halftime. So they didn't score, they didn't shoot 70% like the first quarter, but they shot 58%. They were 14 for 24, and they made 5 more threes, bringing their total to 8 at halftime. And then you had a big quarter from De'Aaron Fox, 10 points, and he shot 4 for 6 from the field with 2 free throws, so 4 twos and 2 free throws. And you had Dylan Harper with 7 more points, and Devin Vassell with 6. And Kawhi Leonard, he only scored 2 in that quarter. And mind you, he only played 5 minutes of that quarter. But Brook Lopez, he played for almost 10 minutes. If he played 1 second longer, he was the guy that played most of the quarter. Besides Ben Mathurin, he played 8 minutes of that quarter. But the leading scorer for the Clippers was John Collins in the second quarter with 6. And the Clippers managed to only score 19. They shot 36%, so it was worse. It was a bad scoring quarter. It was really bad. And they only made one more three in the second quarter also. So they only had 2 threes out of 14 shots. So they were 2 for 14 at halftime. And yeah, guys, it was just really, really bad. And then we're moving on to the third quarter here. And again, I had beliefs that we could make a comeback, but it was bad, you know, especially against Wemby without Wemby, and they were still looking like that they were really tough. But we were down as much as 26 in the quarter, but then we started to come back a little bit, guys. There was some hope for them. Ben Mathurin brought it down to 16 with an and one. and was a free throw. And then he brought it down to 14 with 2 more free throws. Then Jordan Miller brought it down to 12 with a layup. So it was looking pretty good for the Clippers. And then they brought it down to 9. Ben Maverick got another and one. They literally brought it down to 9, and that was the end of the third quarter. It was 87-78. So they were on a roll from going down 25, not 25, 26 to 9 at the end of the first quarter. The Spurs, they really struggled. 7 for 20, 35%. They were shooting really good the first 2 quarters, and then they shot 35% in the third quarter, only scoring 19 points. And the Clippers, they scored 34 points, so they won that quarter by 15. Ben Maverick, he had a big quarter, scoring 10 points. He was 3 for 3 from the field and 4 for 4 from the line. And the Clippers, they shot 24%. Although they were 2 for 8 from 3, Kawhi Leonard, he made those 2 threes. So Kawhi has made 3 of the 4 3-pointers for the Clippers, and then Kawhi added 8 points to that. But the fourth quarter, it was different. So the first play of the game, or of the fourth quarter, Jordan Miller with a fadeaway, he brought it down to 7. So from 9 to 7, there you go. And then Luke Cornett, he made 2 free throws to bring it to 9. Then back to 7. Yeah, back to 7 with a Jordan Miller layup. And then Castle made a 3-pointer. Then De'Aaron Fox a fadeaway. Then Castle, he makes a layup. And then that was also an and-one. So that was a 7-0. That was a run right there. And then there you go. It went from 7 to 15. 8-0 run. There, like what is going on? Like it was in a 3-minute span, literally, from a 7-point game to a 15-point game. And then Garland, he makes a layup, brings it 13. Then Castle 15. Then Castle layup again 15. But the Clippers, they were just fading away again. And then with 7 minutes left, it went from a 7-point game to a 20-point game after the first play. It went from a 7-point game to a 20-point game in a span of 5 minutes, in less than 5 minutes. Dylan Harper, he made a 3, and then Johnson, he hit a 3. So back-to-back threes. It became a 20-point lead, but the Clippers lost 118 to 199. It was just, if the Clippers had that run, then they could have won this game, but it was a really bad loss for the Clippers. It was just really, really bad. So here are some stats for the game. So starting off with Spurs, the leading scorer was De'Aaron Fox with 22 points. And then Stephon Castle with 20, Dylan Harper at 19, Keldon Johnson 13, Julian Champagnie 13, 14 from Devin Vassell. Those were all the guys in double figures, 6 guys. And then they shot 38% from 3, 53% from the field, 47 for 48. And the Clippers, compare to that, they shot 43% and only made 5 of 27 threes, which is 18%. The leading scorer was Kawhi Leonard with 24 points. And then followed by Ben Maverick with 18, so this was a pretty good game for him. He was 5 for 10 and 8 for 8 from the free throw line. So, it's good when Ben Maverick gets his free throws, but sometimes, he just tries to foul bait, but when it doesn't go his way, it really looks bad. And then followed by John Collins with 15 points. So that was a really bad loss for the team. So the next game that we're going to be talking about is a one on Easter against the Kings. So they were tied with the Kings after the first 4 minutes at 11 apiece. DeMar DeRozan scored 9 of those points for the Kings. After Maxime Reynaud and Nick Clayford got a bucket, Kawhi Leonard hit back-to-back threes, and a 3 from Brook Lopez in the next possession to bring the Clippers up 5. So 3 threes in 3 possessions. There you go. and then the Clippers went on a 16-7 run to bring the lead to 12. At the end of the quarter, the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard was doubled, then passed it to Ben Mathurin, threw one more to Kobe Sanders for a three. Boom, beat the buzzer to go up 10, 42-32. Kawhi Leonard already had 13 points on Easter Sunday. And then the Clippers, they started the quarter on a 14-2 run in less than 3 minutes to bring the lead to 19. 2 minutes later, Jordan Miller fouled Daquan Plowden when he made a three to bring the lead to 13 after a 4-point play. Then Nick Clifford made a three to make it a 10-point lead. So yeah, it was bad. And then Brook Lopez, he had 2 free throws. Then Daquan Plowden hit a three to make a single-digit lead to 9. Darius Garland gets an and one to end the first half to make it a 12-point lead at halftime, 71-59. You know, they should have had a 20-point lead. You know, it's the Kings, one of the worst teams in the league. No DeRozan, no Westbrook, or DeRozan was playing, my bad. No Sabonis, Levine, Westbrook, those guys like that. And when we talked about it, episode or two ago, when we talked about the Clippers losing to the Kings, that was a really bad loss during if I'm remembering right, a 4-game losing streak. The Clippers started the second half with back-to-back threes from Chris Dunn and Kawhi Leonard. They got a 20-point lead 5 minutes into the second half after Chris Dunn hit his third three of the game. And the Clippers take a 26-point lead after John Collins scores 8 points. 8 straight points for the Clippers, and Kawhi Leonard got a dunk. The Clippers ended the third quarter by 28, 107-59. You know, it was really, really good. And then the fourth quarter, pretty much, it was garbage time. The Clippers, they brought the lead up to 30 with 10:21 left in the game. John Collins hit a three. He had a really good game. He was knocking down from three. Just a really good game. And then it was just garbage time, you know. It was a 25-point game with 7 minutes left, and then back to 30 with 6:30 left. But it was a really good game, and the Clippers won by 29 points to end the game, 138-109. It was a really good game. You know, Kawhi Leonard, he got his points, but the guy that stood out to me was John Collins. Kawhi Leonard, he had 26 points, but John Collins, he had 25 points. Kawhi Leonard, he was 9 for 18, made half of his shots. John Collins, he was 9 for 20, but he made 4 of 6 threes. At one point, he was 4 for 4 from 3. But, yeah, so he made his first 4, and then he missed 2 in a row after that. But that was in garbage time. So, yeah, it was a pretty good game overall. Darius Garland and Kobe Sanders, the 50 overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft. You guys are OGs if you remember me talking about Kobe Sanders, his story from of his road to the NBA, and just like where he is now, he's probably the best second round pick this season at number 50. And on paper, he wasn't supposed to play a lot, but injuries came, and then there you go, he's playing. So he scored 17 points in 20 minutes. Darius Garland, he had a good game with 17 points. It was a really good game. The Clippers shot 53% from the field, kind of similar to the Kings. They shot 49 for 92, and they made 23 pointers, 4 times more than the threes they made in the last game against the Spurs. So, and they made 23 out of 41 shots, so almost half of their points. For the Kings, you know, it was a big blowout, but they shot 52%, almost 53%. But they made 9 of 32 threes, so it was more than half of the Clippers makes, or less than half of the Clippers makes. But the leading scorer, it was Devin Carter. He hasn't had a lot of consistent minutes, but he scored 21 points to lead the Kings. He was 8 for 14 from the field, but 0 for 5 from 3. And then Nick Clifford, he was second leading scorer with 18 points, and followed by Plowden with 15 points. Then the next game that we're going to be talking about is the Clippers against the Mavericks. It's the first half of the back-to-back. Darius Garland did play this game, but in the game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, he did not play in this game. I kind of wish he didn't play this game because it is more of a competitive game against the Thunder, but still we got. But let's talk about this game, shall we? So it was a good start for the Clippers. They started 17-0 to start off the game. Here's all of the scoring for the Clippers. They had 17-0 run to start off the game. Brooke Lopez with a dunk. Derrick Jones Jr. 2 free throws, and then he got a floater. Then Darius Garland, he got a pull-up jumper, 7 from 7 feet. Then Brooke Lopez put back. Kawhi Leonard 3 with an and one, so that's a 4-point play. Then Darius Garland with another 3. So it took the Mavericks almost 3.5 minutes to score. Cooper Flag got a layup, so it took him that long. And the Clippers, they brought that lead 24-2. So it was a 17-0 run, and Cooper Flag made a layup, and then the Clippers went on a 7-0 run after that. So it was a Chris Dunn dunk after a steal, pick 6 pretty much, a Kawhi Leonard jumper, and then Darius Garland, he got a 3. And then, they were up by 24-2, but they came back a little slowly. At the end of the first quarter, they were only up by 13 points for Clippers. So they were down by 22 in that 24-2 start. But the Clippers, they shot 68% from the field, making 6 of 10 of their threes. So that was a really good shooting performance for the Clippers. Especially being consistent after making 23s the last game. Kawhi Leonard, he scored 12 points, followed by Darius Garland with 8, and then Brooke Lopez, he had 7. So it was a really good quarter for the Clippers. But the leading scorer was Cooper Flag. He scored 13 of his 26 points, so half of it for the Mavericks. And then the second quarter was coming up, and then here we go. They brought it down to 9. They started the game by scoring the second quarter by scoring the first 4 points of the quarter. Nembhard and Marshall, they got their layups, and Nembhard had a jumper. And then John Collins, he brought it back to a double-digit game with a 3. And yeah, then they brought it down to a single-digit lead again. Then it went from 9 to 5. The Clippers only had a 5-point lead with 5:52 left in the first half. Marvin Bagley, he had a layup. It was 45-40. So it was a 38 to 21 run. 38-21 run for the Mavericks. A complete turnaround. And then they brought it to 3 with 2 Max Christie free throws. And then they tied the game in the next play, 47-47. But the Clippers, they did take the lead back. They were up by 10 to end the first half. So they did turn around a little bit. It got me worried a little bit, but I knew that we were going to go on a run. And still, they shot 38% from the field, the Mavericks. Or I'm sorry, 31% from the field. And the Clippers, they shot 39%. Kawhi, he scored 7. So he was doing really good. And the Mavericks was led by Max Christie with 8 points. So yeah, and then the third quarter came around, and then they weren't going away, the Mavericks. They took the lead when Klay Thompson hit a 3 with 3:20 left in the third quarter. And then they brought it to a 3-point lead with a Nembhard pull-up jumper the next play. And the Clippers, they responded. The next 2 plays, Kawhi Leonard hit 2 threes. So it went from a 3-point lead for the Mavericks to a 3-point lead for the Clippers. And then they brought it to a 5-point lead, then 6, then 7, and they ended the quarter up 5. So they responded, They were up 10, they were outscored by 5. at the in the third quarter. But here is some of the stats. Cooper Flag had 8. Marvin Bagley had 6. That 3 shot by Klay Thompson. That was his only made 3 of the game. And Kawhi Leonard, he had 15 points. He only played 3 quarters, though. Here's the thing. He only played 3 quarters. He usually plays about now. He's usually playing about at least most of the first and third quarters, and then he would take a rest and maybe come back around the 6-minute mark, 5-minute mark or so in the fourth and second quarter. But it looked like the Clippers, they didn't need him because they were on a roll. They brought their double-digit lead back, and the Clippers won by 13 points to win the game. And it was a really good win for the Clippers. It was a big start, but they lost momentum. But they got their lead back, and they took care of business in the fourth quarter to win by 13 points, 116-103. So here are some of the stats. Cooper Flag, he led the team with 25 points for Mavericks. He was 9 for 25 though, 36%, and 1 for 3 from 3, and made all 6 free throws. They only missed 1 free throw, the Mavericks, out of 28 shots. But one miss was from A.J. Johnson, which was in overtime, in the last times that they shot free throws. So we were trying to make them miss, because if they missed 2 consecutive free throws in the fourth quarter, we would have gotten Chick-fil-A. But unfortunately, he missed the second free throw, though. Or he made the second free throw. He missed the first one. And although Kawhi only played 3 quarters, he played 30 minutes. He led the team in scoring with 34 points, so more than 1 point per minute. Still, one 7 point per minute, still. But he was 11 for 19 from the field and 6 for 10 from 3. 6 big booms. The Clippers, they didn't make 23s like last time, but they made 14. They were 14 for 37. But it was a solid win for the Clippers. Darius Garland had 22 points. Kobe Sanders, he had 11. And John Collins, 12. Derek Jones, 11 more points. But it was a really solid win for the Clippers. So the final game that we're going to be talking about today is the next day, which is last Wednesday, if you're listening to this live. The Clippers against the Oklahoma City Thunder. But it was a bad game from start to finish, just to warn you guys. A little bit in the third quarter was a little bit good, but besides that, it wasn't that good. So the only lead that the Thunder had, or the Clippers had, was in the first play when Derek Jones Jr. got a layup. That was the only time that they had a lead during the game, and then they started getting momentum again. They were up 12-5 with 8 minutes left in the first quarter, 4 minutes into the game, and then they brought it down. They brought it to 10 more than a minute later, but it was just really bad. 15 a few minutes later, 27-12, and it was just really bad. But they ended the quarter with an 11-point lead. With it was just really bad. The Thunder, they shot 68%, 13 for 19, made half of their threes, 3 for 6. It wasn't Shea going off. Shea was looking like Shea, but he didn't shoot a lot of free throws. He scored 6 and didn't shoot any free throws in the first quarter, but the guy that stood out was Chet Holmgren. He only missed 1 shot out of his 6 shots, which was 1 3. He finished the quarter with 14 points. Kawhi Leonard, though, and John Collins, they led the Clippers in scoring with 16. So, with 16 points combined, they scored 8 each. And that was 16 of the 23 points for the Clippers. The other half was Derek Jones Jr. with 5 and Jordan Miller with 2. And in the second quarter, it came around and it was just really bad again. It was a 25-point lead after Chet Holmgren, he got a steal and dunk with 2:40 left in the first half. But it was really bad. But they brought it down to 20 at halftime, 69-49. So Yeah, let's compare to the stats. So OKC, they made half of their shots compared to 68%, 12 for 24. And Chet Holmgren, he had 24 first half points. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, we only got him to shoot one free throw in the first quarter. So in the first half, he only had one free throw. But still, like I would say for a lot of this, like there were some parts where we were showing promise on defense, but we weren't able to score because the Clippers. I mean, their percentage it looked worse than what it looked like, what their actual percentage was. They were 9 for 21 from the field in the second quarter, a 2 for 7 from three, 20%, 42% from the field, and they made 6 of their 9 free throws. They missed a good amount of free throws this game. Kawhi Leonard, he has 7 more points, so he had 15 second half points. And the Clippers, they showed some promise at the third quarter. I'm being for real. They showed some promise. You know, they brought the lead down to 14, then 12. Brooke Lopez had a hook shot, then Jordan Murray with a layup with 3 minutes left, and then they just started to gain momentum again. They brought it down to 12. They were down by 25 in the second quarter, but they did win the quarter. They were up 6, winning the quarter by 6 in the third quarter. It went from a 20-point lead at halftime to a 14-point lead in after the third quarter. And the Clippers, they made 5 of 10 of their threes. And there were just some shots that they just missed. It was just big opportunities. Brooke Lopez, he had 11 third quarter points, though. He made 3 threes out of 4 shots and 4 for 5 from the field. And then the fourth quarter, OKC was looking like OKC again. And then they won by 18 points. They brought it to 20 plus once again, as much as 21 points. And then, yeah, they won by 18, 128 to 110. Yeah, so it was tough for the Clippers. It was a tough, like, I don't know why it would be a second half of back-to-back against OKC, but I just feel like the Clippers, that they always get their schedule the hard way, you know? Always, because, they like the Lakers better than the Clippers, when it comes to scheduling. But Kobe Sanders, he had 11 points in the fourth quarter. But it was just besides the little run that they had in the third quarter, it was pretty much a bad game overall. Chad Holmgren, he had 30 points. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 20 points. He only shot one free throw, which he missed. It was 9 for 17 from the field. Chad Holmgren only missed 3 shots and 3 free throws. But yeah, they missed 5 free throws. But the Clippers, they missed a good amount of free throws, though. They missed 8 free throws. They made 2/3 of their free throws, which is not good. You're not going to win a lot of games with that. Especially, imagine what the score would look like, you know, you know, especially in the clutch, points make a difference. Like a 3-point game is a big difference between a 2-point game or a 1-point game or a 4-point game. 3-point game, 1 possession game. 2-point or 4-point game, 2-possession game. But the leading scorer for the Clippers, it was Kawhi Leonard with 20 points. So he now has 56 straight games of scoring 20 plus points, which is a franchise record and his oldest player in NBA history at 34 years old to score 20 points for 50 plus games in a row. But yeah, it was just really bad overall. Still, the Clippers shot 46%, but the Thunder, they shot 57%. They made 13 threes. The Clippers made 14. So they actually made more threes than the winning team. But the free throws, man. And we just need to play better defense. And Darius Garland, he didn't play this game. So, before we end off the episode, the Clippers, they play against the Portland Trail Blazers And when you're listening to this live, the game, if you are listening to this live on Saturday, April 11th at 11 a.m., the game already happened, but I am recording this on a Thursday, the day before the game, April 9th. And it's 3:22 right now at the time of recording this right now. And this will be a really big game. So the Clippers are, at the time of recording this, they have 2 games left against the Blazers, which is yesterday if you're listening to this live, and then tomorrow if you're listening to this live against the Golden State Warriors. And the Clippers have the 8th seed right now at the time of recording this, which hopefully they are still there when you're listening to this right now, because the Clippers and Blazers game will already be over with. So the Clippers are 1 game ahead for the 8th seed against the Blazers. The Clippers are 2-1 in head-to-head record with the Blazers. So this is our final matchup, a 4th matchup. The Clippers win this game, they are most likely in the 8th seed. According to my calculations, they are locked in for the 8th seed. And they'll have a two-game lead over the Blazers, which would be really big. But if the Clippers lose, they are in the 9th seed, but still have a chance for 8th after the last game. So the Clippers would need to beat the Warriors, and the Blazers would need to lose against the Kings for their final games. So hopefully the Clippers win. I really want them to really win this game. I do not want to see the Clippers in the 9th seed and then having to win 2 games in a row just to make it to the playoffs. I want them to have 2 chances to win 1 game instead of 1 chance to win 2 games. So yeah, that is it, guys, for this episode. And then I'll be talking about whatever happens next week, and then other the end of season stuff for the rest of the NBA, and then other NBA stuff if it comes along. So yeah, you guys have a good Saturday, and I'll see you guys next Saturday.